All right, let's shift gears now. Christmas is exactly a week away, and as 2025 draws to a close, many will tell you that politics has been anything but predictable. From South Africa's first year under the government of national unity to tensions with the White House, a volatile global landscape and shifting alliances, the political story here at home has been one of consequence. Let's unpack some of these moments that mattered with SABC News politics editor Mzwandile Mbeje, who's with us here in our studios. And what a year it's been.
What a year, what a year.
You and I have been trying to keep up with the very latest, even now before we went on air, and the list is inexhaustible. For a lot of people, it's hard to think about this country before the 6th of July. And we'll get there in just a moment. But even before then, before that bombshell briefing, there were significant political shifts that happened, including, of course, the deflections we saw from the EFF.
Oh, yes. In fact, one of the big stories of the year, had it not been for Mkhwanazi, I think it would probably contest to be the biggest story of the year. The Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi story. You'd recall that after the EFF had held its conference in that December of 2024, so there were questions around what was happening to Mbuyiseni, suspended or not, and no one knew. And then we then got that exclusive sit down with him where he basically for the first time indicated that he was walking away, so he was leaving party politics. So that was the story that, I mean, somehow impacted the whole country because they wanted to know what was happening. That happened this year. Quite interesting.
Yeah, and it feels like it was a lifetime away because of so much else that's unfolded. We know, of course, Mbuyiseni has went on to become a broadcaster. He's done a few things in the academic space, I think, NGOs, etc., etc. But fast forward a couple of weeks, very few people would have predicted how much of a shift would take place in this country when Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi called, at the time, what seemed to be an ordinary briefing on a Sunday morning to give an update at the time, we're told, about policing matters in KwaZulu-Natal.
Oh, yes. That basically changed completely the course of history, might I say, given the weight of that press briefing. So clearly, since that day, 6th of July, up until today, and it's still ongoing. In fact, I under the report, the interim report of that particular press briefing, the Madlanga report, the interim one was submitted to the presidency stroke yesterday, early this morning, whichever way, because when we got to be informed, it was very in the early hours of this morning. So it is of consequence based on what happened on the 6th of July. So that has, I would say, perhaps changed the course of history.
Yeah, let me just stop you there, Zoya. Apparently we are struggling to hear you for a while. So what we'll try and do is perhaps get that altered for you so that we can, of course, hold on to all of these moments of significance as we take stock of the year that's been, at least in the world of politics for 2025. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us as we continue our discussion around the year that's been in South African politics in 2025. Can you believe Christmas just a week away? A clear sign that we're seeing the, I suppose, latter parts of the year. And to help us take stock of the moments that mattered is once again SABC News politics editor Mzwandile Mbeje, who's with us here in our studios. And we're still speaking about that consequential briefing that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi gave. And you are taking us through how even to this very day, it's still grabbing headlines, at least the fallout thereof, in that interim report now on the president's desk.
Exactly. I mean, as we sit here, the president had said he would not wait for the final report to act. And I think the next question, in fact, as soon as the holidays are over, South Africans would want to know now that he has the interim report, so what sort of action is he going to take, if any? So clearly, this matter is still going to be before us for quite some time. Remember, it's not only confined to the Madlanga report. The Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee is well sitting, looking into this very matter. So we have seen a number of characters who are either in the political space, in the social space, or in the criminal space as well, which has somehow given a bit of an insight into what is going on in general around the management of the country, so to speak, particularly insofar as the criminal aspect is concerned. So those are areas really that are still going to be with us for quite some time. And so we wait and see.
Absolutely. And of course, there are so many different legs to that story. There's what's happening, of course, in the justice system, the judiciary is being named, of course, law enforcement, both at a national and municipal level, when you think about the EMPD, but also there's a political career also hanging in the balance in that of Senzo Mchunu. There's real questions about what happens to him come 2026.
Even more interesting, I think at the beginning I said this could possibly change the course of history. I think one of the people who had been earmarked for perhaps the position of president after President Ramaphosa was Senzo Mchunu. But how much will this would this impact those aspirations, given that he remains suspended, and then we are waiting for the report to say what it will say? So clearly, this has been very interesting. We will see as the time goes on who else might perhaps get into this. Remember, we are just halfway, so we're still waiting for more witnesses to come forward and shed a bit more light, really, into what has been happening. Of course, others will use this platform to clear themselves where there have been suspicions. Others will be able to then use this opportunity to really get rid of that. So, in fact, those accused or those implicated maybe have a better opportunity. If I didn't know Ayanda very well because of certain clouds and certain suspicions, here is the platform for him to be able to then explain himself. Perhaps it may change you for the better.
Right. We know phase 2 of the Matlanga Commission will get underway next year in earnest. That's when all of those who are implicated will get an opportunity to respond. As we're trying to put all of those fires out domestically, there's been a lot taking place insofar as our foreign affairs are concerned. Shall we begin with the White House, which has really kept us busy in 2025? We always knew that Donald Trump colors outside of the lines, is how I like to put it. He's not one to confine to, I suppose, convention. But I don't know how many people could have predicted just how much South Africa would be on his target this year.
Maybe we took it for granted, I think, as a country, because, I mean, even in his first term, he had somehow indicated his displeasure with South Africa in general. But I guess the fact that the key advisor, the ally, or whoever you want to call him at the time, the South African-born Elon Musk, and then his influence around how he's thinking, and perhaps certain groups within the country who may be aligned to those individuals, you don't know how much weight they attach in terms of listening to them, because you can see that perhaps some of those people who have the ear of the President of America are those that may not necessarily enjoy that broad support here at home. So clearly, President Trump has fully trusted that and believed in it. I mean, as recently as a few days ago, Elon Musk was basically saying South Africa is passing anti-white laws, which is actually not the case. So when you have those powerful individuals, I mean, you can't ignore Elon Musk. I mean, the fact that he is the richest man in the world, he used to have, and I guess perhaps they are back together, the ear of the most powerful man in the world. So you can't wish that away. So clearly, you had people who somehow were not necessarily didn't like South Africa that much, I would say, and then they had this kind of position. So you are bound to have what we are having now. I mean, look at us. We're sitting at home. We're supposed to be in Washington deliberating world issues, but somehow something has been concocted to get us out of there. So it's been quite interesting. I mean, who would forget that press conference in the White House where our president with his delegation was being shown pictures, some of them from Congo, simply to make the point that South Africa is bad, that there are bad things happening in this country.
Yeah, the now so-called dim the lights moment when Donald Trump began that presentation, which was clearly always up his sleeve. And it all happened at a very crucial year for South Africa, of course. The first G20 on African soil had to happen this year. It did, and it actually drew compliments even from the unexpected parts of society. I mean, the EFF came out very clearly to say that, President Cyril Ramaphosa did well?
I mean, maybe let's even leave the local reaction. Even the allies of the U.S., some of the key allies of the U.S. Were very complimentary of how we hosted the G20, which is something really was a shot in the arm, I guess, for the country. I mean, when you saw the G7 here, -1, that told the entire story. Some of those people are more aligned to President Trump, but they came to South Africa. They actually said, well, South Africa did very well. But unfortunately, Ayanda, when you have someone who has made their minds, regardless of what you tell them, they are not going to change. I think that's what we're witnessing right now with the U administration in relation to South Africa, going as far as to come to us South Africans and pinpoint some of the individuals to say, I want these ones to come to US because they are being persecuted. It doesn't matter that some of the very key individuals from that grouping are saying there's nothing of the sort. You had Johan Rupert as well there at the White House stating the case of South Africa as well, not necessarily from the same ideology as perhaps the governing parties, but you had individuals who said, yes, there are so many things we may not necessarily be happy about, but in terms of the genocide against a particular group, there's nothing of the sort. Still, you have people saying that's happening. That's the reason was cited why the US didn't participate at the G20. So clearly, we may be fighting a very difficult battle, which we don't know how it will end.
Yeah.
But because there are systems in place, systems always correct themselves. So we just hope for the best.
In fact, as you say that, I'm reminded of the last few lines of the declaration at the G20 that not only spoke about what's going to happen in 2026, but also spoke about 2027 in the UK, and I think 2028 in South Korea, if memory still serves. So I think South Africa has always anticipated that maybe, to borrow words from Vincent Magwenya, who said, we'll take an ad break and come back again in 2027.
Basically, that's what is happening. Because, I mean, you can't push yourself when you can see that you are not wanted. And there are allies out there who are waiting for you. Remember, you will just have the same time like the ones who have had the opportunity to host this. You can showcase whatever you want to showcase, but after that, we go back to what the world really aspires to, desires. But also, I spoke about the systems coming into place to correct some of the issues. In perhaps a year or so, the president of the US, will be facing the midterms. A lot can change. A lot can change. Traditionally, the party that is in power normally loses in terms of the midterms, whether it's Congress or even Senate. So a lot is still going to happen. By the time we go to UK in 2027, perhaps things may have totally changed. So there have even been attempts from that other side to test whether an impeachment process could survive. But of course, for now, they're still firmly in charge, but we do not know.
Absolutely. Speaking about things that could change, it'd be remiss of us not to talk about our own elections we're anticipating next year. Local government, so much to be said about that, but already there are movements taking place. We see the ANC is holding a few regional conferences. They had their own national general council last week, and a lot of that focus was how do we regain lost ground with the local government elections on the horizon?
It will be an uphill battle for the ANC, but maybe it will be much better because they know now how the society sometimes responds. The fact that they were given 40% in last year's elections has told the entire story to say if you don't pull up your socks, that 40% could also be taken away from them. So clearly, with the local government coming up, and you would have seen some of their roll calls trying to speak to councillors, and you would have seen how they have reflected in the NGC. But as we've always said, and they actually noted that themselves, that is part of what the declaration read, was that discipline and implementation is what the ANC needs to pay particular attention to. They have these great ideas about what needs to be done, whether it's at local or national. but somehow fall short on implementation. So will they turn the corner? So they are just left with, if we are to look at November, we're just left with about 11 months before the elections. So let's see if this implementation happens. Of course, this is not confined to the ANC, to other parties as well. How much are they going to capitalize? So this is going to be a very interesting year that we are starting in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, give or
Can
take.
you believe it?
And you say that, it makes me nervous because this year has been very interesting itself. I don't know how much more we could take, but I suppose it's all written in the stars in one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And when history's time has arrived, you really can't stop it. Mzwandile Mbeje, thanks very much indeed. If we don't see each other again this year, I certainly wish you a restful season. You're going to need it because it seems we're going to hit the ground running from early 2026. Mzwandile Mbeje, our politics editor here, as we take stock of the year that's been, at least in the world of politics.